Good afternoon and welcome to the Bull Market Stock Show. This is your host, Jerome Powell. We're doing extra day, which is the FOMC meeting, and I do apologize for starting a bit late today. We were a bit smacked with load shedding, but we survived actually that period. Now, with the FOMC meeting, it will be very interesting because there's quite a lot of different things that market speculators market speculators are actually talking about. One of them is actually that the Federal Reserve will start to taper today, and that it will start with 15 billion US dollars per month. Now, you must know the Federal Reserve is actually pumping about 120 billion dollars per month in the economy, and they need actually to start to taper because obviously there's supply chain problems, the economy is overheating, the inflation numbers are actually high, and it's actually a bit sticky, the inflation numbers, because it's above 5%. The last time we checked on a PCE, the personal consumption expenditure and the personal consumption income, it was about 5%, 5.3%. So that is actually fairly high because the Federal Reserve is actually targeting about 2%, 2% inflation. So that is actually quite high when you look at 5%, and where you look at the target of the Federal Reserve is actually 2%. The labor market is a bit on and off, so that is also a big question mark there. But the main thing is actually about the inflation and the supply chain problems. So please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube page, and please drop your comments and questions so that I can know, so that I can actually answer if you have any questions. The main thing about the Federal Reserve is that they need to start tightening up at some point because the economy is literally flooded with money, and there's quite a lot of money with 120 billion that is being pumped in the economy. That is now every single month. So what the main speculation is that the Federal Reserve will start to taper with 15 billion per month, and then they will stop everything at around May next year. That's 2022. So that is actually what the market is speculating on. Now, there is a lot of bulls in the market when it comes to the Federal Reserve. There is about a 60% chance, or I would say some people, they did actually a survey on the Federal Reserve. So that is actually where I got my things from. They did actually a survey what the market is actually thinking of what the Federal Reserve will do. 60% of them say that the Federal Reserve needs to stop with 120 billion. That is what they want. Like, just stop with the whole entire tapering because the market is basically overheating. That is what 60% of the survey was pushing out. And then also there's a 40% of the survey that actually said that the Federal Reserve will start to raise interest rates actually by the end of this year or the beginning of next year. That was now January. So there's 40% that think that may happen. There was also other speculation the Federal Reserve will cut interest rates. I doubt that will happen because they need to tighten up. But the other ones were also pointing out that there is a possibility that the first interest rate hike will come 12 months from, that is now from today. So that means next year, November. But what the market is actually pointing out, or what the safest one that I can go with, is that the market expects the Federal Reserve will start to taper with 15 billion per month, and they will start to taper. Actually, that is now the end of next year with the first hike next year or November 2022. So that is the safe side. Now, the main thing is, how the hell do you trade with everything? That is the big question. I think if the market is basically, I think this whole tapering thing is being priced in already. The 15 billion per month and a hike, obviously they will not talk about that. That will now come with this whole entire dot plot story. But I think that the tapering of 15 billion per month that will start maybe today and end next year, March, that has been priced in already into the market. So I think if that is the case, I don't think anything will happen. I think that the dollar will basically weaken because it's already been priced in. If there's a price in the story, like for example, they increase the tapering to 30 billion or 40 billion, that will be a surprise to the market. And that will signal that the Federal Reserve will start to taper aggressively. Not obviously if they go with 30 billion, that they taper aggressively and they will raise interest rates quicker. So that means that will be hawkish for the US dollar, and that will push the US dollar up. And obviously we all know once the US dollar goes up, that is where your commodities will go down, like your oil and gold and gas, copper prices and all of those things. That will go down because of the strength of the US dollar, if the Federal Reserve is moving more aggressively. But if the Federal Reserve is sticking to the story of 50 billion tapering per month until May next year, I don't think anything is going to happen. I think the dollar will go down because that story has been priced in. But if the Federal Reserve is hawkish by saying they're going to taper more aggressively, that is where the dollar will start to go up. So you need to be very careful tonight. I'm a bit out of the market for now. I will first start to see what is the story tonight, and then I will make a decision afterwards. But that is now if the Federal Reserve start to taper or not, and that's why I'm giving you these scenarios. If the Federal Reserve do absolutely nothing and come with the same story that they will taper in December, that will be dovish. And that will actually push the dollar down because obviously the market is now really wanting actually the Federal Reserve to start to taper. And if they're still playing around, the people's going to sell off the dollar if they do nothing tonight. Because there is 90% of the survey participants that said the Federal Reserve will start to taper this month, which is now November. And also, there was also the survey also pushed out that inflation is the biggest threat for the US economy and no longer the virus. So the people are more serious about inflation than actually the virus. So that says actually quite a lot. So the Federal Reserve need to start to make moves now. Otherwise, the people will force the Federal Reserve to actually to start to taper more aggressively as time goes on. Because there's a heavy supply chain problem. There is actually stagnant inflation at about 5% and has the potential of going further up. So it's or they start to taper more aggressively and give the signal that they will start to raise interest rates early in the near future. But as I said, just to go over it again, if they go on with the 15 billion tapering per month and stop next year, May 2022, I think nothing's going to happen. The dollar will start to go down because that is already being priced in. If they talk a different language, for example, they're going to start to taper with 50 billion per month or 60 billion per month, then that is very hawkish. That will push up the dollar and that will also push down the other commodities. Well, if you hear anything from 15 billion per month, it's always going to be hawkish or it's going to be dovish. If the Federal Reserve do nothing, that is dovish. If the Federal Reserve become more aggressive, that is where you will see a stronger US dollar. But I would say rather wait for the news to come out, the conference especially. Once the conference is coming out, that is now at 8:30. That is where you can start to make your trades to hear what Jerome Powell said. So that is it from my side today. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube page. And also, please, if you can, drop your questions, drop your comments. That helps a lot. But it also helps if you subscribe for my YouTube page. That is it from my side today. I will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully at 1 o'clock if my light is on. Bye-bye.